Hi, I'm Aqua Liao, and welcome to Cobb TV. With us today is Chairman Mike Boyce.
Good to be back, Aqua.
Thank you. You've had a very busy week this week.
Yes, I feel like it's a month jammed into 5 days. A lot of things went on. A lot of good things going on, of course, and I think we'll just sort of go down the list and we'll talk about them. The first thing is that on Tuesday, the morning meeting will be addressed a number of important topics. One of them is I'm fairly confident that the board will be approving County Manager Hosak's recommendation of Mike Register to be our new police chief. I know that Mike has been going out right now, meeting different groups in the county, getting out in front of them. He's already, even though he's not formally been approved by the board, he's not waiting for that. Kind of reminds me of that great line from the movie Patton when Carl Malden pins the third star on his collar and says to Patton, "Has Congress approved that?" And Patton's line was, "Well, Congress has their time schedule and I have mine." Well, that kind of reminds me of what Mike's doing right now, and I say that, in all good humor. He's just trying to get out in front because he knows a lot of important things that are happening, and he knows there's people who want to talk to him, and he's doing that right now. So I'm very confident that we'll be approving the recommendation of Mr. Hosak on Tuesday morning. The second thing is we're finally going to put to bed the $14 million list of projects that were part of the development agreement with the Braves that we signed back in 2013 and 14. And earlier this year, Mr. Hankerson, when he was a county manager, along with Deborah Dance, our county attorney, sat down with the Braves and came up with a list of what we thought met the criteria of that agreement. So Tuesday we'll be finally voting on how we're going to allocate those funds to meet that agreement. The good news is that even though it's $14 million, we're going to be getting about a little over $2 million in credits for projects that we've already done. So we will not be writing a check for $14 million. It'll be closer to $12 million, both for water fund programs and for other projects. And we'll be spreading some of those projects out over the next couple of years. But the details will all be at the meeting on Tuesday. The board, I'm fairly confident, will approve that because they voted on this list almost 3 months ago now. And this is just the final contractual obligation to sign the dotted line to transfer the funds to the Braves so that we've met our obligation in that regard.
Wow, sounds like lots of important stuff. And yes, I know that the staff is really looking forward to having a new police chief, and we can't wait. Speaking of police chief, I know you attended the graduation of the
Yes.
Mandate 44 last Friday.
Right. Mm-hmm.
Do you have any words of welcome or encouragement to that class?
Well, obviously, as you know, I've been doing police ride-arounds now since I got into office. I have another one with Precinct 3 next week. And I just cannot say enough good things about the quality of young men and women that our training is graduating. The thing that I always like to remind people about is that there is probably no bigger job in this kind of right now to challenge people than being a police officer. No matter what you do, because of the technology today, you're on camera or on tape all the time. And you're dealing with, in circumstances that aren't always the most friendly. Nobody likes to get stopped for speeding or some other violation. They're not stopping to congratulate you on being a model citizen. You've done something to commit an infraction. But how they handle these situations is remarkable. And I attest that both to the leadership they have at the top, and we have some incredibly terrific executives from the chief on down. But Here's the thing that I like to tell people. Out of 100 candidates that apply for the police academy, 4 are accepted. That's how tough the criteria is just to get into the academy. And then the class graduated somewhere around 20, I think, didn't it?
Yeah, they had 19.
19, all right. So out of that 19 that graduate, they've been through several months of training. And then they're going to begin joined up with a field training officer for the next year. And they're not released until that field training officer believes that they're ready to go out there on the road by themselves. Here's the part that really tells me that we don't take things for granted. There are officers who graduate from the police academy who do not meet our standards and are not allowed and are not allowed to go out and patrol. and have to leave the department. So it is not a gimme just because you graduate. We understand the importance of how we reflect the public's our motto of expect the best, and these officers do that. So not only was I impressed by the young men and women that graduated last week, but also the follow-on class was there that afternoon watching them graduate, and they look just as good. And so, as I tell people, this is a very safe county. A, because we have many, law-abiding citizens in Cobb, but B, because we have a police force, a public safety department that respects everybody, and we just simply want them to be safe, and we approach it from that angle, and we train them that, and we expect them to reflect our best face. And I'm telling you right now, I could not be more pleased with what I'm seeing right now being produced by the Cobb County Police Department and Public Safety.
Well, thank you, Chairman. If you know of anyone that is interested in applying for a job at Cobb County or specifically for Cobb County Police Department, all the application information is available online on cobbcounty.org. Now,
Great.
Chairman, I know you had a big trip to D.C. this week.
Yes.
Would you tell us a little bit about that?
Well, I was down in Savannah last month for some training, and down there I met with the chairman of Paulding and Bartow County. And we decided that we needed to try to find a way to move ahead on a new interchange up in Bartow County at Third Army Road. And why that's so important for Cobb is that all the traffic that's coming out of Paulding right now has no access to Interstate 75. The chairman there made a very interesting point that I wasn't aware of. They have no connection to any interstate in the county. They're the 13th largest county in the state, and yet they have no direct connection with interstate. So what happens is when they're coming out of that part of Paulding, they get on 41 and they drive down into Cobb County, and they get on 92 and they drive through Ackworth to get to 75. So consequently, it backs up traffic on 41 for us, and the traffic on 92, I can only imagine what it looks like. So what we're trying to do now is we went to Washington to talk to Senators Perdue and Isaacson, and then Congressman Loudermilk and Graves, to see if we could get their support for federal funding to build a road from where Dabbs Bridge Road meets 41 up in Bartow, and move that Paulding traffic across Bartow County onto 75. And we got some support from every one of them. It was just a terrific, day in Washington. I walked away really impressed by the ability of the congressman to grasp the issues right away. Senator Perdue really impressed me with his business approach and how he connected, how basically if you're going to borrow from Peter to pay Paul, the implications of doing that. This is not going to be a cheap project. We're talking, somewhere probably close to $100 million by the time everything is done. But that $100 million is going to lead to economic development out there, which is going to lead to jobs, and those jobs are going to be filled by people that are going to be paying mortgages, doing shopping, buying cars. So the county and the government, the federal government, would get a return on that kind of investment. If we don't do that, then we have the chance of having to use a social network, the social net, to save people because they have no jobs. So we all are on board about that. We've agreed now to come back down here and re-meet again and start talking to Georgia Department of Transportation about this intersection. And we're looking at having something on the books here, hopefully, without any additional Cobb tax dollars, but we will use federal or state money to do that somewhere in the next 3 to 5 years. Why is that important? Because of my bigger scheme here of addressing traffic management, I have to have a north-south solution to problems, and the managed lanes are part of that, and this Third Army interchange will be part of that. But then it also connects into how do I handle traffic coming out of Paulding County on the Dallas Highway that gets stuck somewhere around there, Ernest Barrett, and then of course having to get through the National Park and into Marietta. So we have to have some way to get around the National Park and Marietta and get people off Dallas Highway faster and quicker over to I-20 or to I-285. And I'll be talking with Commissioner Cupid and Commissioner Weatherford here the next couple of weeks about how they envision us doing that, because then we're going to have to either go back to the state and ask for help, or I may ask for the county taxpayers to help us. But I can't come to anybody until I have a vision of how we want to do that. So there's a lot of balls in the air right now. I'm working with some people to get me a meeting with the CEO, with the executive staff of CSX to talk about the rail bed. Is that an option? I don't know. But as I tell everybody, all the transportation options have to be on the table right now. We have to have this discussion. We need to do something, because if we don't, then as I tell people, you'll be sitting in traffic learning multiple languages trying to get out of your development, which are going to come, and because the land use map says that they can build there. So this week is just tied in an overall effort that I'm doing with the commissioners and your state legislators to address these traffic issues.
Well, I know personally, as a resident of Cobb County, I cannot wait to hear more about, the transportation plan, and I know that a lot of Cobb County residents feel the same way. So we can't wait. We'll see what happens.
Well, my sense is that as I get around talking about this subject more openly, I think my sense is that people are ready to have that discussion now. But the challenge here in Cobb is that they want to be part of the discussion. So whatever we decide we think we want to do, then the next thing is, how do we communicate that to the voters? And I'm looking at trying to do something by 2020 on the ballot in November of 2020. But that means we have a lot of work to do, to identifying what the projects are, pricing them out, and then spending probably 2 years going around telling the Cobb voters what it is we're trying to do and why we're trying to do it and why we need their help. And that's a challenge, because it probably does mean more money. Just saying that to be quite open about it. Money doesn't grow on trees. But I think that the Cobb voters, if they see they're going to get a benefit from that, they will support you. But every voter has to sense that they're getting something out of this, which is why I keep talking about an east-west solution and a north-south solution. If I only have one axis, then that only means half the people of the county are going to be benefited from it, and the other people that are not won't pay for it. So I get that, and like I said, we have a lot of work to do here, but I'm going around talking to more and more people about this to let them know that we hear your issues. We know you're not happy about sitting in traffic. This isn't going to be a short-term fix, but we are moving forward on solutions.
That is awesome. Do you have anything else that you'd like to share with us?
Well, I'd like to end up, every now and then we have a really good news story about something that happened great in Cobb. And there's so many of them, but this week I was in church last month, and one of the ladies that sits across from me, her name is Lillian Mortimer. And Lillian wanted to get a Georgia ID card so that she could vote. Now, that's not unusual about it, except that Lillian's 100 years old. So the challenge was that for her to get an ID card, she had to have a birth certificate and a passport. Well, Lillian was born, let's put this in context, was born when the United States entered the war in Europe in World War I. That's when she was born, 100 years ago. That's what happened 100 years ago. She was born at home. She didn't have a birth certificate. So working with Sheriff Neil Warren's office and working with the Department of Driver Services, we found a way to meet the requirements. And I think you have a picture here of Miss Lillian proudly holding up her Georgia identification card. And, it really moves me, because this is a lady that wants this card for one reason only, so she can vote. And if that doesn't send a signal and a message to people about how important, this freedom is we have, Miss Lillian is our poster woman for that. So it was a great day yesterday. You were part of it. And her daughter, Lynn, was there. It was just a great day, and I just was really proud to be a very small part of bringing making Miss Lillian a happy camper.
Yeah, she was a real sweetheart, and I'd like to look that good when I'm 100.
Yeah. Well, as people will see on the picture, she walks without a cane or a walker. Those are her hips, and her original hips and knees, and she's as sharp as a tack.
She sure is.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much for helping her so that she can do her civic duty. Thank you for joining us this week. And if you have any other further questions, you can email the chairman. He is Mike Boyce. It's mike.boyce at cobbcounty.org. We'll see you next week.
Okay. Thank you, Aqua.
Thank you.
See you next week, too.